Well, welcome everyone to a special video. Probably something I've read more about than any other tragedy in my life, and I do read about tragedies. This is the spot of the Munich air disaster. This is where the plane crashed into the house and so many people died on the 6th of February of 1958. And there's a little memorial there, and I thought I'll show you around. So, I did a video on Bill Shankly. Let's go to this bench first, let's see if it says anything. And in the comments and Facebook groups, I think people assumed I was a Liverpool fan. Munich Memorial 60th anniversary to the Munich citizens and thanks to the supporters of Manchester United Football Club. But that I'm not a Liverpool fan, I'm a Manchester United fan, and we all have our reasons for sporting teams and football teams, but glory supporter, first game I ever saw, Manchester United 2, Aston Villa 1, Lee Sharp scored 2, and I really got into United, and I had this little book, if I can find it on the internet. I'll put a picture of this book. I used to read this book when I was about 6-7 years old, and a huge part of it, obviously, I think it was a book about newspaper articles about Manchester United. A huge part was the Munich air disaster, of course. Is this that wooden cross? I've been to a few places where something bad's happened, and those crosses are there. Is it a German thing? Anybody know anything? Yeah, this is where the plane crashed. I must have read about this incident so many times. It's called Manchesterplatz. I think it's the smallest Platz in Germany. Uninteresting fact for you there. So yeah, this Manchester United team was the Busby Babes, incredibly famous now in football terms, famous at the time, and were going on to achieve greatness. They were 6 points behind in the league, 14 games to go. They were bidding to be one of only a selection of teams to win the title, the championship 3 years in a row, and still in modern football, when you've got very dominant teams, winning 3 leagues in a row is still very difficult. They were infamously in the final of the FA Cup, where they lost to Bolton because their team was decimated and Matt Busby showed up. They were playing against Belgrade in the semi-final of the European Cup. How I miss the European Cup, the proper European trophy. And they stopped off in Munich, where we are, to fill up. And it was a very icy, very snowy night, and the pilot tried to take off twice and aborted, and at the end of the runway, a huge patch of slush had formed, and the plane went to take off. It skidded along there. The old runway goes, as we're looking, straight down there. There's still some little bits of the old airport down there. If I've been down there, I've shown you. But the runway goes this way. This was right. It crashed through the fence, so really hard to visualise now, but there was a fence around here, the runway ended around here, and there was a house here, and the plane crashed into the house. There's 44 people on board, 20 died at the scene and 3 more would die in hospitals. 23 fatalities. The left wing was torn off, and the tail section broke off. There was a barn here, part of the home, and the plane crashed into the barn, or the tail that fell off the wing crashed into the barn, and it exploded, and there was a huge fire, and it exploded. So a huge catastrophe that happened here. That's surreal to be here. Not letting it sink in, because I'm reading a story. Walter Crickmer, Tom Curry, Brett Wally, Roger Byrne, Jeff Bent, Eddie Coleman, Duncan Edwards, Mark Jones, David Pegg, Tommy Taylor, Liam Billy Whelan. All people that died here. Manchester United goalkeeper Harry Gregg started pulling people out the wreckage quite famously, become a hero, not just a Manchester United hero, just a hero. This team were going to be, they're known as the Busby Babes, they were known as the Busby Babes at the time. They were touted just be a freak generational talent. Manchester United would win the European Cup in 1968, so just 10 years later, with a fly coming down my back. And England won the World Cup in 1966, so there was a huge crop of talent, and some of the greatest talent were in this Manchester United team that perished, unfortunately. Of course, Bobby Charlton, who was instrumental in both Man United's European Cup win and the World Cup. He was in the accident but survived. There are so many flies around here. I'm absolutely covered in flies, so I'm distracted. Matt Busby was seriously injured. He was given the last rites twice, but he would survive. Like I said, in the FA Cup final of 1958, he turned up to see the team. I think that's the first time, or maybe history tells it it's the first time because it's more romantic. He was kept from knowing what had happened for quite a long time, and it was only when he asked about Duncan Edwards he was told what had happened, who had perished, that Duncan Edwards had died. They refrained from telling him to aid his recovery. Duncan Edwards, there's a statue of him in Dudley. I might do his own video one day. He's probably the most famous person that died in this tragedy, with tips to be an absolute superstar, and he was only 21 and he died. So yeah, Manchester United grew again. Matt Busby at the helm. He was also Scotland manager at the time of this accident, if I remember correctly, and he gave Dennis Law his first cap, who would be instrumental in the Manchester United Trinity, the Law, Charlton and Best. They scouted George Best, they got George Best in, and they built a new team, and they achieved greatness. and they go on to achieve greatness. Well, they go on to achieve greatness. It's a very hard time to be a Manchester United fan at the moment. It ain't going well. But they're one of those teams, like Manchester United and Liverpool, that just, they'll always be about. They'll always be huge. They'll always be the two biggest teams. And it's, bizarrely enough, because of history like this, the tragedies that both teams have endured, makes them live on in people's hearts, I imagine. Like I said, when I was a kid and Manchester United were winning stuff, so they were easy to support. I fell in love with Manchester United reading about the history and certainly reading about this. But it's weird to be here. It's a story that I probably first read about when I was 5 years old. This was opened not long ago. And Sir Alex Ferguson was here and Dave Gill, and I'll put up when it was like unveiled, yeah, not too long ago. And yeah, it's just a little memorial. There's obviously one at Old Trafford, and there's one here. If you can't read that, this marks the site where aeroplane crashed on the 6th of February 1958, in which 23 people died. Among those who died were 8 team members from the Manchester United Football Club. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the little video. I am absolutely touted in flies. I have no clue what's going on. I'm worried that I'm getting bit. So I bid you bon farewell. If I go up and film the remains of the airport, I'll put them in the video. And that's where I'm going next. I hope you enjoy the weather. It is boiling in Munich, and I think it's about to thunderstorm, so peace. So I'm not sure if you've got any real interest, but the memorial's there. You can still see the Manchester United logo. I don't know if you could see it on the screen, but it's just there. So this is what would have been the runway. This is where the plane. My sat nav's on to get me to the old building. So this is what the old runway would have been along here. That's where the plane would have come, and you can still just see the Manchester United logo there. So yeah, this would have been the old runway. Don't know if that's of any interest here. So this is the old control tower at the old Munich airport. Still here, being converted into apartments. And the old arrivals hall is just over there. I'll put a picture up. I think I'm parked very illegally.